Welcome to a very spooky and scary edition of Let Me Put My Pants On, recorded from a haunted castle 500 feet above a cliffside in Transylvania. I am your host, Boris Karloff impersonator, your main host tonight.
Boris, give me the mic back, Boris. Put the mic down.
Please, no, I'm fading away into time.
All right. Thank you, Boris. This is the Let Me Put My Pants On podcast, where pants are optional. You can also say fuck on this show. Did you guys know that?
I don't know, can we?
I'm your host, Brandon Potter, and also hosting with me tonight on this chilly San Diego evening. It's a brisk 58 degrees. I don't know if we're going to make it through the night, you guys. Anyway, sitting with me is Jaleesa Johnson.
It's fucking cold.
And Katie Hinckley.
I need a parka.
Matt, our IT guy in the back. I don't know if you can hear him.
He's
Such a
tied up.
loser.
Yeah, so tonight we're going to be hosting, we all know him, a special friend of mine. He's been doing comedy for, I think, about 9 years now. He works at the Comedy Store in La Jolla. He's opened up for guys like Jeff Garland, Doug Stanhope, Tom Green. Anyways, you all know him. It's Russell Brock.
Yeah, woo.
They don't know him necessarily.
They will know him.
Fuck.
Thank you for being here tonight, Russell.
Yes.
It's good to be here on this most, as you said, it is so chilly. I feel like it's Outpost 31 in John Carpenter's The Thing outside. All we need is Kurt Russell and a couple of flamethrowers to really kick this podcast into high gear.
I can get on those practical effects.
Take
ASAP.
advantage of this most frigid and...
I want to say for our
awful
listeners,
evening.
you're going to hear a lot of movie references tonight.
We'll get to that. To his
Perhaps
movie
some
reviews.
obscure. Roll with it. He's a good guy.
There's a lot I want to talk about with you, and I had troubling deciding how to start. So I feel
Deciding?
we all know you. So I thought we could give our first impressions of Russell because he's been doing comedy longer than us.
This is good.
Yeah.
I didn't even know you. I thought 7 years. It's 9 years. Wow. And
Beautiful.
I've been doing it for 4 years.
Nah, man.
Yeah.
I saw Russell about right around this exactly when I started doing comedy. Maybe even a little before. I probably saw you perform a few times, but it was at Till 2 when we were always hanging out there. And Russell was just, at the time, and still to this day, just one of those comics that might not always you always get something different when you see him. And I think that's what I liked about him. He wasn't like everybody else.
So my comedy is like a box of chocolates?
Yeah.
You never know what you're gonna get.
We all know that movie. That's
I
a good
remember
one. That's a good
approaching
reference.
you until 2 and be like, hey, I thought you were really funny.
Honestly, I think Till 2 is where I also saw you for the first time, Russell.
That's probably where I saw you, Jaleesa.
It was like love at first sight. No, really, you are one of those guys that you never know what you're gonna get, and that's something you can always count on. Because honestly, comedy can get very mundane, with the same setup, a whole thing. And I feel like you have your setups, but honestly, you know when to switch it up. You can read a room and you can be like, you know what, you guys want something fresh, you guys want something special just for you. Everybody wants something customized in 2017, and you give it to them. And I love that because I do the same goddamn 10 minutes everywhere I go. And I would be so afraid to jump off of that ledge and just be different, but also be myself.
I've seen him plan out shows, and I've also seen him come up with this entire act 5 or 10 minutes before a show. He'll just scribble something down on a piece of paper real quick. I think we've all kind of done things like that maybe, but never to we'll be driving to a show together in his car getting high, and we'll be talking about something silly in the car, and then he'll write it down and just that'll be his whole act for 15 minutes.
Have you always done that, or was it something you picked up
Well,
along the way?
first I want to say my dick is so sore from being ridden for so long. Wow. This is the most complimentary
We haven't even gotten to
We didn't
it.
give Katie a turn.
of my comedy since I told my parents I was doing comedy, and they're like, "Oh, that's nice."
Shout out.
No, yeah, I mean, I feel like I do the same material all the time, but it's just like kind of like I mix it up, and I do, like you said, I do most of my writing like under duress, like right before the show or like on stage. And yeah, it has kind of always been that way once I figured out what I wanted to do. Because there was a good while where, like, when I first started, I just did like super deadpan, kind of like offensive one-liners and shit
Anthony
like that.
Jeselnik type.
Sort of, yeah, and yeah, it was awful, and and that's what I did for a long time, and it wasn't until like probably like maybe 2 years ago where I started kind of figuring out what I wanted to do with it. And
Damn,
just, like,
that's what's up.
Yeah,
7 years.
What was your first impression of Russell dating?
So actually, I think I met you right around that or I saw you for the first time right around that 2-year mark. It was like I
2 years ago.
Yeah, 2 years ago. I believe it was at number 1, and I was invited by a couple local comics who were like, "This show is awesome. Like, it's really fun. Like, you should come and like meet the people who run it or whatever." And I was like, "Oh, like I'm gonna have some gin and tonics. It's gonna be at a gay bar. Yeah, I'm down with this." And then I went and I saw Russell, and I was like immediately fucking intimidated. I was like, I can't. That person is never
Wait,
gonna.
so Russell intimidated you, but I didn't?
Okay.
Yeah, you can intimidate me.
You were comedically intimidating, but I was like, I could definitely befriend him. But I was like, he's too
Don't
cool.
give
and
Brandon
nice
that
for
leeway. It is very hard to be intimidated by someone who talks about anal douching for
That's
15
valid.
minutes straight.
It makes me approachable.
Yeah, I'm just like, that guy cleans his butt. I can get to know him. That's
It's a sign of a trustworthy fellow.
Yeah,
Someone
it's
with a spick and span asshole.
Bearing his soul.
But you did this whole like, and it was during like the Trump onslaught where like the water was receding and the tsunami of bullshit was about to hit like 6 months later, and like you just went on this epic fucking rant for like 5 solid minutes, and I was like, holy shit, that
Really?
was
Only 5 minutes?
I know. It was towards the end of one, but like it was just, and then you started doing shit about Barron Trump, and I was like, this guy breaks all the rules. I love it. This is fantastic. And then I actually got to know you, and I'm like, he is like the sweetest douchebag I've ever met. Like, it's like, you're like, I'm an asshole, and I know it, but I'm gonna love you. And I'm like, what? And that's when I realized all the shit you gave me was because you knew I could take it.
I've realized that's a common, like, an ongoing thing where, for whatever reason, just because of what I do on stage, people don't think I'm approachable. But
Yeah.
it's like, no, I'm just a normal fucking person. Like,
Really
it may
screaming
sound
on-
like I'm dying of like ulcers, like on stage.
Screaming on stage for 15 minutes
Yeah.
might put people off.
Yeah, but like no, I've always tried to make it a point to be like, no, to get to know me, I can be a delightful human being.
I feel like Daniel Tosh might have a similar problem. You know, like
Detosh?
Tosh, you know him? You guys know each other. No, he has this persona, if you will, but not even like in a false way. Like, I'm sure it's an extension of who he really is, you know, or a part of him that's real. And people just probably think that's all he is. So when you're ranting on stage, people think, oh, he must always be angry. But really, you have your moments where you're happy, right?
Oh, very rarely. I am a cynic to the ends of the earth, but like my whole philosophy on everything is like nothing ultimately matters in life because we're all going to die and just go into that fated abyss of nothingness and we cease to be.
The Jim Carrey approach.
So have fun with like yeah, it sucks and everything's miserable all the time. You have to laugh at like just how horrible
Totally.
it fucking is.
That's probably where you get your confidence, right? And maybe it's not confidence.
Knowing I'm
you're
gonna die? Absolutely.
You're not afraid to be maybe disagreeable, you know? Like,
Maybe disagreeable.
No, he
Yeah,
definitely
That's your first
disagree.
special.
Maybe disagreeable.
I'm trying to not say
Yes.
Nazi sympathizer. I've heard that, and I know that's not fair, because I know
No, because I'm like the exact opposite of
Yes.
a Nazi.
It's the haircut.
I just happen to have a very Aryan face.
the blonde hair and,
And
the
I-
light. What color?
and
are
I
your
have
eyes?
like the blue eyes
yeah.
and and
The rosy cheeks.
the Richard Spencer special haircut.
Right.
Snowy
Thank you for
white
not
skin.
wearing khakis, though.
If I had khakis, a polo, and a tiki torch, like run. You know,
You're
I'll
that
smoke
guy.
a tiki torch
Yeah.
with you.
I'm not that guy, but I could be like
You could
that's
be
Bizarro
interpreted.
Russell. Like I feel like if ever universes collide and there's a Bizarro version of me, because like I pride myself with just like being super fucking progressive and this, that, and the other. If there's an alternate universe of me, it is an alt-right Pepe the Frog loving,
Oh, yeah.
like Charlottesville, like
But you still
alt-right
like Dick
like that's my
in
exact.
either one.
But he's not cool with it.
He's
Like
very
he's
closeted.
covered it up with hate. Meanwhile, I've like embraced like guys, Dick tastes yummy from
I
time
think
to time.
that's might be
Just
why
accept it.
people might confuse you though, because when you say like progressive or liberal, like when people say those things, people like assume that we're supposed to be like super tolerant and understanding, but
Fuck that.
I think people like you and even me and probably all of us, like we're frustrated, like just because we might be enlightened or woke, as the kids say, like it doesn't mean like we have the patience for stupidity 24/7.
I will say
Fox
this though.
News.
I'm like
Looking at you.
as someone who's like I consider myself. I hate the term woke. I cannot fucking stand it
I do
because
too.
like for
You
me
just
it's
accept it, don't resist it.
for me it's like I say racist shit all the fucking time.
Yeah.
I hate everybody. I
Yeah.
think every race equally is fucking like all of humanity, like not even on a racial level.
Yeah, just
humanity is shit, and we should just like fucking make fun of each other.
Yeah.
And like the thing that sucks is like, oh, you gotta like watch your microaggressions and you might trigger me for this, that, and the... Fuck off, man. Fuck off with your safe space bullshit and like, no,
This
like
is a safe space to say fuck
like
off.
everybody
Yeah.
is like, that's why I think I know I'm probably the only person who's still watching South Park just based on their ratings this
Really?
season alone. Yeah, no, I love South Park because they're equal opportunity offenders.
Oh,
Which,
yeah.
like, I believe is
No
the
one gets
most
a pass.
important
No
thing.
one's safe.
You can never tag Trey Parker and Matt Stone with being, like, racist or homophobic or anti-Semitic. Like, any of these things, because they go after everybody equally.
And
Because
that's your goal?
And they don't
that
always
is
get it
my
right,
dream
too.
job would be to write for South Park.
Oh.
If someone's like, Russell, you can quit stand-up today.
If you're listening,
But you
South
can
Park.
write for South Park. I would drop so San Diego Comics, I know you're sick of me and you're trying to get rid of me.
This is how we
And
get 'em out, guys.
This is how you do it.
Yeah.
Okay?
That's what's up.
This is
Because
how
every
you do.
comedian has their own like dream job. A lot of them say SNL. Some say late
I want to be a
night.
writer for like Clickhole or The Onion. I'll take
God.
Clickhole.
Anything
Dude,
with
I
a
would,
hole.
I would kill Moosey right now, like my dog. if you told me I could be a writer for Click. I know. I'm sorry. That's the. I feel safe saying that because I know it will never happen, but
Oh no.
I could be like Clickhole article. I killed my dog.
I actually did kind of start tearing up just a smidgen. Like, I can't.
Okay, so we're getting ahead of ourselves.
I,
Let's bring it back. Let's start from the beginning, Russell, and then walk me through it. You were born in Texas. How long were you living in Texas?
Too long. I was born in Denton, Texas.
I'm
And-
sorry.
Yeah. Luckily, I was only there for 3 days. And then got adopted and lived in Dallas for 18 unhappy years. Maybe 19. The math's fuzzy on that. I'm a 237-year-old pansexual blood twink that lives for eternity. So,
You were raised really religious too, weren't you?
yeah, no, I was raised super Catholic and pretty conservative, straight-laced household. Not that like my parents like, because I was, they wanted nothing more than for like a kid who could do the sports, and, and that was not me. And
Not a
but they were like supportive of me doing theater and stuff like that. Like, to give you an idea of like how interested in sports I was, like I was on the bench like for all of everything. And eventually, because I had no interest, and I went up to the coach one day during one of the last games of the softball season. I was like, Coach, can I play? He's like, oh my God, yeah, Russell, you can play. Get on in there. And I ran to that playground. And I was on the monkey bars. I went down the slide a few times. Like, competition and not my thing.
No.
Um,
I'm gonna go play
We have that
over
in
there.
common.
yeah, and so
I suck at sports.
oh, I'm awful at sports. I'm terrible at them, but I luckily did a lot of like, I was interested in a lot of science stuff, and like they encouraged me like to like if I wanted to do like a science camp or something like that, and so I could do that. Like it wasn't like I didn't have opportunities. Like I've been very privileged in that respect to where like when I started doing theater and improv and and now stand up, they've always been supportive. They've never understood it.
Yeah.
Like they've never understood it, but they are very supportive.
Yeah, and good parents don't need to understand. They need to.
You started
support.
stand up in Texas, right?
Yep, I started in Austin, Texas, at a coffee shop called Kick Butt Coffee.
Well, Austin isn't so bad compared to the rest of the Texas, right?
No, well, yeah, no, Austin was fine when I last lived there. It's been a minute since I've been to Austin. It's been a few years, but yeah, it's very hard to get me back to Texas. I mean, once you like move out to San Diego
Beautiful
and like
Southern California,
LA, just 3
Yeah.
hours down the road, and then if you want to make a day trip out of it and spend a couple of days in San Francisco, like that's an option too. Whereas Texas, it's just a smattering of cities, small towns, and a place that looks like a nuclear wasteland.
yeah.
When did you move to San Diego?
I originally moved to San Diego in, I believe, the end of 2010, beginning of 2011. And at the time I was with my high school sweetheart, who I dated for like 7 years.
Oh wow.
And she eventually wanted to move back to Texas and kind of settle down, and this is when like I was really getting into comedy. I was starting to like gain my footing, and she kind of gave me the ultimatum of like, hey, it's either me or stand up. And I was like, oh, this is an easy decision then. I'm gonna do the stand up. Have a good one. And then as just for the next stretch of years, just a slut and a stand up.
I wish somebody would try to get me to pick them over stand up.
Be like,
I think like because part of it is like I think it was one of those things where for so long like she was like the most constant like thing in my life that like I had any like real interest in, and then the moment I found something that like I love more than being alive, it's just like, oh fuck, like this isn't gonna work. Which like, and that's the thing, like being with someone who like who's passionate about any sort of like artistic endeavors, just like kind of like has this thing where you just I have to do my art. I don't care if I'm destitute for the rest of my life because of it. I want to do my art.
Yeah.
And it's hard. It's hard on people.
They say like pretty much any success is like 10 years that looks like it happened overnight, or they say it takes 9 years before 1 year changes your life. I believe in those things. Like it can be a different number for everyone, but like anyone that thinks that I'm gonna do this in this amount of years is not open up to like their mind to reality. Like you have to be aware of like the the path is a long one.
Oh, absolutely. That's why I have no aspirations with my comedy.
Besides South Park, which is a really good one.
Yeah, no, that's fine. But
Would you be doing anything else though? Like I've been doing it for 4 years, and like I feel like I have nothing. I do have nothing to
I
show
don't,
for it
like,
either.
there was a
Plenty of things.
there was a
dude.
time in my life before, like, I did comedy and music and all that shit, where like I really wanted to do film, and like I wanted to be a writer and director. Like I have a shitload of screenplays just sitting on a hard drive.
Really?
Yeah. That
Dude,
are
that's what
never
you have
gonna-
to show for it. How
They're
many?
never gonna. I think 6.
Fucking amazing.
But these are things I've been working on since like high school and after I dropped
That's
out
how
of high
long it
school.
takes,
But
dude.
yeah, like these are things that are never gonna see the light of day. Like
Well,
my
some of them
MO
might.
is to create
Don't
shit
give up
that-
hope.
Yeah, do not.
Emily Dickinson.
It depends on what he wants, though. Maybe he wants some of them to just be practice and he knows it,
I mean,
and
that's-
others are more worth it.
Okay.
There are ideas that I know are workable that like I have that like I am totally like there's a couple of film ideas that I know like fuck, if I had a meeting with this executive and this, like,
This
I
would be
could
the one.
sell this idea.
And those are the ones that count. That's what it's
Yeah.
called. But sometimes you got to go through shit or create shit before you can get to.
Yeah,
those,
but I'm
you
not.
know?
I'm also not aspirational at all. Like, I'm totally fine with
I don't
just
know
being a
about
blue
that.
collar working stiff in comedy.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, you know that's kind of interesting because they also say like if you want to like aim for the stars and you're gonna fall somewhere.
Shoot for the
like-
moon, and even
Oh,
if you miss, you land among the
right.
stars.
So if you aim for like excellence, you're probably gonna fall short and just be like, pretty good.
No,
that-
no, I shoot for bare minimum.
Is that
so that
because-
I can impress myself
Oh,
with just a
interesting.
modicum
But
of
being that
improvement.
way,
Yeah.
he's able to like. I'm guessing here, but so you can stay true to yourself. Like you're basically just doing what you want to do.
Yeah, no, my whole thing is like just like this is the art that for whatever reason stuck with me that I wanted to do, and I do it.
And you're
Like
total
I'm not
creative
trying
control.
to get anywhere with it. It's just it's this thing that I've compelled to do. I've invested more time into stand-up comedy and being committed to it than I've anything else in my life.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
anything else, I wouldn't trade it for the fucking world.
So if South Park said, "Hey, we're looking for writers. We need you to do this, this, and this," that would be something that would be.
that would be something that would like get me to be like, all right, yeah, I'm good.
dude.
That's
Then
awesome.
that's the next fucking.
That's the
step.
one thing. Yeah, but that will
Well,
never happen.
That's the
That's-
exciting thing about comedy.
That's why I try to stay realistic. I think that like when you look at how many voices are attempting comedy in
Yeah.
some respect,
Yeah.
and how oversaturated the market is,
Right.
and how great the distance is between where we are and someone like, say, Dave Chappelle or like Mark Maron or like Maria Bamford is so great.
Yeah, yeah.
And there are so many voices, and it's such an oversaturated market that
Right.
you have to stay realistic and set like bare minimum realistic goals.
Yeah.
I disagree though. I understand, but like, what's the point of being realistic when you can be delusional?
Because
Like-
we're gonna die.
It just depends on like what your goal is too.
Yeah.
Like,
You don't want to
fame
die
isn't always the
disappointed.
goal.
I don't think the pursuit of happiness is disappointment. I think like sitting on things that you could have done is disappointing. Like for me, it's scarier to not try things and to not believe than it is to be like, oh, I'm just gonna accept that this is impossible. Like
Well-
nothing. I mean, certain things are impossible. I agree, but most creative things, I believe, there's nothing is impossible.
Oh, I agree with that sentiment. But also, I'm a very cynical, jaded
You're right.
person.
You did mention
Yeah.
that.
And that's just how I operate. Is I
And it
have to
works for
keep
you.
things.
Yeah.
If I keep things just like really fucking shitty and negative
And
and,
simple
realistic and just bare minimum,
Do you believe what
I
you
end up
get out
I
what
end
you
up
put
having
in?
more hope at the end of the day somehow.
Well, you know what? I like that though. That's interesting.
For me with comedy, I'm kind of along the same vein. Like I do it because I enjoy doing it, and I have focuses, like creative focuses with comedic, inspiration elsewhere. Like I want to do writing, I want to do TV shows and movies and that kind of stuff, and do writing for that. But like comedy is not my end game for that. My writing and my experiences that I gain through comedy is my aim for that.
I would say to that, like, the cool thing about comedy, comedy, because I think we all kind of like being creative in one outlet or another, but comedy has opened up. Just doing, when you do comedy, it's all. I mean, unless you have writers behind the screen, like helping you write your
You're the
jokes.
director, you're the actor,
But yeah,
you're the
you
writer.
come up with everything. You're creating
Mm-hmm.
it all. It's all you, and like you put yourself out there. You're vulnerable. It's everything you created. Is you're
It's a
putting it
one-man
on
show.
stage.
Yeah.
They're either gonna hate it or love it or be bored with it.
Instant feedback.
And just doing what I've wanted to do on stage in my short little 4 years is like, like I'm on podcasts. I've got some like acting gigs. I've met musicians. I've done like a musical comedy song. Okay, and I'm
all
tripping
because
myself up, but
stand-up got you there, but other people do take other paths, and I think you were getting at that too,
Yeah,
right?
and that's the thing is like it's amazing because comedy is such a blanket entertainment. Like everyone can get behind comedy. Everyone wants to laugh at some point, whether or not
Right.
you're obnoxious or you're cynical or something. You need something.
And there's more
in
money
comedy,
on
it's
television.
it's addicting in a way because you're being creative and you're being true to yourself, but it's like comedy is a gamble. Like you can put 10 years into comedy and feel like, comedy is never going to owe you something. You
The
could put your
key-
whole life into comedy
Well,
and you might not get what you want.
What I think the
So-
key is, or whatever you would call it, is it's putting your eggs in, or was it many eggs in many baskets?
In a
Like,
too
like
too
you-
many eggs in one basket.
You want to have multiple sources of not just like income, but creative outlets. Stand up is my personal bread and butter. It's the root of it all. But like writing itself is a huge monster like that I'm trying to tackle. And then there's acting, and then there's directing and filmmaking on so many different
yeah.
aspects.
Well,
Yeah.
that's like for me, like in regards to comedy, I disdain and absolutely hate the term comedian.
Why?
I don't like it when people call me a comedian because for me, like a comedian is someone who can do more than stand-up comedy.
Which is not a personal
That is
goal.
not something for me at all.
Okay.
Like all the screenplays like that I've attempted and written are mostly horror films.
Okay.
Like I have no interest in doing anything comedy
Oh, dude,
wise outside
you'd be
of
great at
stand-up.
horror.
I have zero fucking interest in like doing like
See,
sketch comedy or like
I love
writing
horror.
comedy.
It's good
like,
to know what you want. Jordan Peele
Yeah.
is a good example of a comedian who's amazing at horror. I think
well,
the
fuck, Get Out
perspective
was
that
so good.
that
Like
we
my favorite
have,
movie of the
yeah,
whole year.
we make fun of
one of my
tragedy
favorites. It's
for a living, or to call it a living. For what we do in our spare time is we make fun of tragedy, or the ones that are my favorites at least. So,
Yeah.
Russell, you're one of
Sidebar,
those.
that movie got nominated for Best Comedy.
Well, it's not the only movie that's ever gotten like a weird placement, the comedy slash what's it called, musical category, is because there's no horror category, right?
Yeah.
So that's
It's not
where
the
they
MTV Movie Awards.
exactly.
I would put it in drama over comedy.
Drama would be better. Wow.
Yeah.
Brad,
No,
wish you worked for them.
there's enough funny in Get Out. I think a lot of people are forgetting about his friend who works at the TSA.
Yeah.
And like, there's
Yeah.
enough satire and that's what Get Out basically is it's this horror satire on race relations in America.
But Jordan's not happy about that. He says Get Out as a documentary, and he thinks,
I think that's him making a joke though.
yeah, of
At
course,
the
it's
same
not a
time.
documentary, but I
Yeah.
think he's pointing towards like the seriousness of it.
No, I get that, but
So you
like
disagree
most
with the director.
like look at a movie like Death to Smoochie, which is like this super horrifying look at mental illness, or like the
Yep.
Cable Guy even.
Oh,
like
totally.
Yeah.
they're the like part like that movie has the Cable Guy specifically is like has horror elements to it.
Yes.
It's like
That
stalkerism
movie,
and shit
that
like
movie
that.
scared the shit
It
out
has
of me.
it has a lot in common with Get Out in some respects, and just like how disturbing it is, but it still has enough funny in it because funny comes from real shit.
So
at the
you
end
would
of the
be
day.
totally, and this is not like I can't believe, this is like genuinely, you'd be totally fine with making a movie that's nominated for an Oscar, which would be amazing. But like in the category, or is it a Golden Globe?
Golden Globes.
Okay, yeah, having a movie nominated for Golden Globe in the comedy section, that's a horror. Like, because that would be coming.
If
from
it's a
comedian.
if it's a horror comedy, which Get Out absolutely
That'd be
is,
amazing.
then
That's-
yes.
Oh.
Yeah,
there you
absolutely. If
go.
I make a
Yeah.
horror comedy, but I'm not that funny when it comes to actually writing stuff.
Well, maybe
way
they
more
are.
grim. It's there's a
I
huge
love
separation.
I actually, one of the things I remember is like when I did start talking to you and hanging out with you, just mostly at like the comedy show and stuff, and after I had performed at number one a couple times, you would reference movies, and we already mentioned like there would be a lot of movie references tonight. And I think that was one of actually the things that like really intimidated me, was because you had such good taste, but it was taste that I didn't even know about.
Good taste
One of
is
the
saying
things-
like again. I've been watching a lot of women in prison,
Yeah, that's questionable.
1970s exploitation movies on Amazon Prime.
Just
recently.
it was so
I have questionable taste
edgy.
in
It was
movies.
edgy.
One
taste,
of the things
edgy taste.
Russell is known for, though, is I guess it's part of your comedy, but it's your movie reviews. And I look to
yes.
you. I look to Russell when I'm not sure about something. I like either ask him or I just check, especially if it's something new. Like he's usually talking
Yeah,
about it, and
you
he gives
definitely
a
got a
very
knack for that.
honest reviews.
Well, that's like in regards to my comedy with like movie references and stuff. You know, I've always said I can't write a punchline to save my fucking life. So, as a result, I just put a movie reference in there
Which
instead of
people
a
appreciate when
punchline.
they get it, yeah.
So it's like, I'll just tie it into a movie
It's a
somehow. This
skill.
like
It's a
stupid
strategy.
thought I have that
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
It's
about
your
like
voice.
yeah,
in
like
the end,
what?
yeah.
Yeah, you
People
just
say
have-
like, and people is a big blanket statement, but like I've heard that.
I hope people say if like foxes were saying that, I'd be like, foxes are talking now.
What does the
Shit.
fox say?
Oh fuck!
I
Oh my god.
He's like a regurgitation of the talkie box growing up.
I feel like Kobe Bryant actually said this. He said he tried to copy the moves of like his idols, but he had a different body type, so he had to adjust the moves to fit his body, and ended up looking like totally different moves. So people were like, "Oh, this Kobe guy is so unique and original," but really he just had to kind of tweak what he admired to make it fit his reality. So you're putting in these
That's a
punchlines
good
and
No,
analogy.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree
Yeah.
because to also like Kobe Bryant, I also am like I was never inside of an underage girl in
oh,
Colorado.
Shout out.
He's still a rapist, everyone. I don't care how good he is at basketball.
But the quote stands.
yes, it does. It does. It does.
You miss
stand
every
by the
shot
quote,
you
not
don't
Kobe.
take. Or
Oh,
did
no.
he say
You
that?
miss every shot you don't.
You miss every girl you don't rape.
Okay.
Oh my lord.
From Kobe's perspective.
Kate,
What's your favorite movie? Godzilla? I have. So I'm looking at notes.
What's your
I have
favorite movie, Godzilla?
movie reviews, and then I have Godzilla as a
That's
thing.
a-
Like,
okay, that was-
We'll unpack this for a second. So
let's talk about Godzilla for
I
a
just
minute.
remember. Can I preface this
Yeah.
note actually? Because I'm the one who wrote that in the show
Oh,
notes.
okay.
Because I went to go see a Godzilla movie with you, and this was after you and I and your girlfriend Annie and Matt, we all bonded and like would hang out and we'd watch your dogs, and it was like I was like, oh my god, I'm like really awesome. We're friends. This is great. I'm so excited. And you're like, let's go see a Godzilla movie, and I was like, oh fuck. Like I thought it was like one of the like old ones, like the corny ones, and then you proceeded to talk for like 3 hours about all the different Godzillas and why they were good or which ones were shit. And like
There's
this is-
multiple Godzillas.
this is the
like
person.
hundreds.
This is the person who paid me by putting money in the hand of a Godzilla when I watched their dogs. So obviously Godzilla is a big frame of reference for you. So that's why I put it in there, because I love the way you talk about
yeah,
Godzilla.
no, I first of all, no, my favorite movie is not Godzilla, but I do,
Yeah.
I do love the Godzilla franchises. You know, that and Star Wars are like the first things in like movies and pop culture I ever fell in love with. And to your question, Julie, so yeah, there's like 30 Godzilla movies.
That's
It's, like,
crazy.
the longest running film franchise of all time. And
Wow.
it's nuts how many. And no, I love that franchise. I love the creativity behind it. I like all
like
incarnations
the
of
practical effects of it.
yeah,
or-
well, no, just like I love the way it looks. I love when I was a kid, like I was always obsessed with monsters, and Godzilla's got a shitload of monsters.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh
I
man,
hated
this is
monsters
like-
as a kid. We were different.
Oh man, I love me some good old monsters, and especially like big monsters wrecking shit and fighting each other. Like, sign me
I
up.
liked witches, like Hocus Pocus was a good
Hocus Pocus is good.
Yeah.
Are they ever gonna make a sequel with the original cast?
With black women is what they should do.
You
Hocus
mean
Pocus,
with
y'all.
Blimmin?
Blemon? Who's that? Is that a
Black women.
racial slur? I'm triggered.
You brought up the Kobe Bryant analogy.
I
Blood
did.
and soil. Blood and soil.
Let's talk about your sexuality, Russell.
And from zombies.
Let's just plug you into the mind cords and put you in the Inception bathtub real quick.
It's a weird break, but I want to talk about it. It's not a lot of people know this about you, but
Not a lot. Everyone who's listened to my comedy ever or had a conversation with me.
okay, maybe now, but
Many people speculate.
okay, for our listeners that don't know, you are pansexual, and do you want to define that for our listeners, for those
Yes,
that might not know what pansexual is?
It means I jerk off to the movie Pan's Labyrinth all the time. You know what's weird though? Like people get upset about
The guy who puts the eyeballs in his hands.
that definition, but it's not that far fucking off.
You're just open. Oh, so pansexual, my understanding as a gay man, I don't know why I have to keep
As a
saying
gan?
that.
As a gan,
But a pansexual kind of means it's just you're open to being
Whatever.
in a relationship with anybody, whether they're
Anyone,
trans,
anything,
gay, lesbian.
yeah.
Attracted to beings.
to just humans.
Mm-hmm.
Not even like again. I've said it before, and I'll say it, I would fuck the aliens from Independence Day in a heart. Like I would fuck half of the puppets in the Dark Crystal.
So this has nothing to
Like-
do with pots and
like,
pans.
No, this like literally I've got my dick sucking merit badge. I've got my this, that, and the like. Again, sexuality is on a spectrum, and it's like for me, I think all 31 flavors should be a fucking option.
Tell me about Mr. Wooden Spoon.
Well, that segued quickly.
That was a great segue to child abuse. Okay, so yeah, growing up in Texas, you know, you get some weird redneck discipline growing up, and my mom had a wooden spoon that she would discipline me with. It had a smiley face drawn on it that was named Mr. Wooden Spoon. Close.
That's a nice
Close.
picture, Jalisa.
Thank you.
And
Did
she would
she would
chase-
make like chocolate chip cookies with it?
oh no, Mr. Wooden Spoon had one purpose.
Oh, it wasn't even like a
And it
versatile
wasn't
tool.
and it was not for cooking. Mr. Wooden Spoon was there to set shit straight.
Oh my. Okay.
But yeah, she had like a voice for him and everything.
Oh my god.
And actually, if you want to hear a fun little childhood story, my mom, and I love my mom to death. She did the best she could with Mr. Wooden Spoon.
Is this
Oh
gonna be
my
one of your
God.
horror?
That's terrifying.
But she.
I'm making my skin crawl.
One of my favorite stories, and my mom, Mom, if you're listening, you'll love this story. It's your favorite story that I tell. But for those who aren't here at the table, Jalisa just drew an erection. Are you gonna put these images on the show notes?
These will
Yes.
be in the
Are these
comments.
images? Okay, cool. So yeah, my mom. One time we
Mr.
were at Tom Thumb, which is the Texas Southern version of Vaughn's, and this is back in the '90s where they still believed in the lobster slave trade.
I'm glad that's over.
Where they look, PETA at least got something right.
Right?
You know, back where you could go into a grocery store and they had those lobsters on display.
Right.
And you don't see that anymore in grocery stores because liberals.
Yeah. It used to
Those
be
goddamn liberals taking our lobsters out of our grocery. Anyway,
the live lobsters, you could pick out which one.
yeah. And so I was a kid and my mom was shopping. I was just entranced by these lobsters, and there was one who I would tap on. He would tap on the glass back. And my mom was like, "Oh, do you like the lobster?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, I like this one. He's my friend." And she's like, "Okay, we'll bring him home." And so I go home with my mom, and I spend hours hanging out on the floor in the kitchen with my new lobster buddy, my new pet, my first pet I've ever had.
Oh yeah.
This little lobster buddy. And I fall asleep, and I go to bed, and I wake up, and something smells really good
Oh, and they
from
ate
the
your
kitchen.
pet.
And I go in, and my mom is boiling my new pet, my first pet alive in
I'm
a
so
fucking
sorry.
pot
They're
with
delicious.
boiling water, and I just scream
And
and,
Mr.
start
Winston
crying and
is
run out.
the
I didn't
murderer.
talk to my parents for a week, just
Oh
like,
my God.
like you're the daddy who killed my friend.
Oh.
You
And,
didn't even
um,
eat any of the lobster?
I did not eat any of
How
my
does
missed
friends.
out.
Mr. Wooden Spoon tie into this?
It doesn't. It just like ties. Oh my god! There's a picture on this paper. There's a picture of a lobster next to two different artist depictions of Mr. Wooden Spoon.
We'll put that in the comments for our listeners.
No, yeah,
You want to see, Matt?
Save that, yeah.
No, Mr. Wooden Spoon. Yeah, my mom used to. Yeah, she used to.
Can
when I was
you?
bad, she would chase.
What
me
did
around.
Mr. Wooden Spoon sound like? Can you give us a?
It's kind of like Mr. Bill. Yeah, I pitched voice kind of like Mr. Wooden Spoon's coming to get you. You better
Oh
look
my
out,
no.
Oh, no.
What did he say to you? What did he say to you when you did something wrong?
Okay, are we doing some like weird regression therapy in
No,
this?
this- what did he say to you, Russell?
I can't remember specifically.
You
I
were-
just remember my
You're
mom
bringing up
putting
some
on.
PTSD, bro.
All right.
No,
all
like
right.
I was so young when Mr. Wooden Spoon would come out.
I'm
Like
sorry.
look, this was well before like
It's not
I
right
saw.
what Mr. Wooden Spoon did to you.
No, it's not.
No, you know what? I think it is because if it weren't for Mr. Wooden Spoon, I wouldn't be throwing my life away doing stand-up comedy.
Oh, well, thank you, Mr. Wooden
If it weren't for
Spoon.
Mr. Wooden Spoon, the Catholic Church, and the Boy Scouts of America, I wouldn't be where I am today.
What were your favorite movies for the year 2017? Give us your top 10.
Okay, so yeah, I just scribbled this down. So here are my top 10 of 2017. Russell Brock's top 10 picture films you can go see in 2017. Put a nickel in your local Nickelodeon and check out these films. Number 10, I got Lego Batman.
Oh, fuck yeah.
Thought it was great.
Okay.
Number 9, a movie that no one saw called A Cure for Wellness. Directed by Gore Verbinski. Imagine the movie Shutter Island if it was good.
Oh.
Shots fired at Martin Scorsese. Number 8, I've got Get Out. Love that movie, so good. Number 7, I got Baby Driver. And number 6, I've got Spider-Man Homecoming, which I just saw today.
Nice.
That's how fucking good that movie is.
And it's number what?
It's number 6.
Number 6.
It's so
Better
good.
than Get Out. Incredible.
I liked it more than Get Out.
Is
and
Donald
Baby Driver.
Glover in this movie?
He is.
That's what
Yes.
I'm hearing.
Yep, Donald
Yes.
Glover. He's only in there for about 5 minutes, but fuck, it's a sexy 5 minutes.
Oh, he is unbelievably
Oh,
sexy.
he's
5
a new-
Grammy nominations.
He's the new Lando Calrissian. Like,
Yeah.
Oh,
you know,
fuck, I forgot.
As soon
Oh
as
my
he
God,
shows up
yes.
in that Han Solo standalone film, the first thing I'm gonna say is, "Hello, what
He's
do
Simba
we have
too,
here?"
in the Lion King, the new Lion King.
He's-
Beyonce
Oh,
is
also,
Nala.
yes. Also,
Atlanta.
You think Beyonce just called him and she's just like, I'm Nala.
At number 5. At number 5.
onwards, yeah.
We have It.
Nice.
It's great.
Saw it with you. That was
Fun
fun.
movie.
We saw it together.
Number 4, I've got Logan, which is for the first time I've liked an X-Men movie since
See, that's
the
another
first
thing.
one.
Like,
Really? I actually haven't seen that one.
It's so good. It is so good, and you will cry 1,000 tears watching it. It
That
is
makes
pure
sense.
emotional terrorism.
Oh, fantastic. That's definitely what I'm going to watch before bed.
Yep. And if you want to make it even more depressing, there's a cut of it called Logan Noir, where it's all in black and white.
Oh, God.
So it's like Schindler's List for mutants. It's great. It's a fun time for the whole family. Bring your kids for this depressing, R-rated, violent, character-driven superhero film.
Excellent.
Number 3, I've got Wonder Woman.
Okay.
This is now where we're at movies that made Russell cry this year. Wonder Woman. Waterworks out the fucking wazoo.
I fell asleep during Wonder Woman.
I'm sorry to hear that. What part did you fall asleep in? Did you at least
After
get to the no
the
man's
hot
land?
lesbian, no, you know how the beginning was the best part? I fell asleep.
No, the whole movie was the best. Like the last 10 minutes is garbage. Everything up to that, great.
I kept waking up randomly, and I was just like, not feeling it yet.
So
Jalissa,
strong
if you
women
ever
on
want
the
to borrow
screen
my
bore
copy
you?
of Wonder Woman, You owe it to yourself to say, because you didn't see the No Man's Land scene.
Fair enough.
Like,
Maybe if Wonder Woman was a man, it would have kept Jaleesa's attention.
If only it was Man of Steel and it had a bunch of straight white men yelling at each other.
Wonder Man.
If it had more 9/11 imagery.
What if she
and
was
had
black?
someone with a penis in
She
the
was-
lead role.
The beginning was very cool. The beginning with the training of all the warriors.
That's what I love about that movie is it shows that, like, Patty Jenkins, like, if you put a woman behind the camera who is clearly, you can tell just from that opening on Themyscira how over the, like, male bullshit in superhero movies
Yeah.
that Patty Jenkins is. Like, any other movie, when it shows them training and stuff, you know it'd be, like, super, like, just pornographic, like, look at their legs going up to their short skirts and they're in slow motion. In what makes them sexy in Wonder Woman is, like, they're not overly sexualized. It's just, what is hot about them is they're these strong women who are doing badass shit. That is what's hot. Yeah, they're wearing fucking mini skirts and fucking sexy armor, but, like, we're not dwelling on that.
Yeah.
It's more that, like, these are women who get shit done, and there's nothing sexier than that.
I like that.
Totally.
Number 2, I got Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2.
Yeah.
Strictly because it took my favorite Cat Stevens song and just made me cry forever. And then number 1, Kong Skull Island.
Oh my god.
It's the most fun I've had in a
I'm
movie
gonna
theater
kill that
in the past
motherfucking ape.
in the past 15 years. I've never had more fun watching a movie. And I can't
Really?
count how long there I was. It's like the same problem like that I had with Superman, because like we were saying, like I was talking to you earlier outside, like I'm like the one person who actually kind of liked Man of Steel, because like
I did, yeah.
because like the one thing I was like, no one needs another fucking superhero movie, like another
Yeah, I
Superman movie.
hated it.
It's like with King Kong, it's like no one wants another fucking King Kong. Get this monkey off my fucking screen. But like,
too sad.
but
Yeah,
fucking
that'll be
Kong Skull
misquoted years
Island-
from now.
Kong Skull Island puts this like at no point do they take him to fucking Manhattan. At no point does that motherfucker scale a fucking building, or is he like holding fucking Feyre? Like, it is Apocalypse Now.
Yeah,
It is.
They're cool,
it is
but
Platoon with a giant ape in it.
why did the humans always have to be assholes to him? Like,
Well, that's the best thing about it is like the whole movie is so bleak and nihilist. Like, one of my Kong Skull Island has probably one of my favorite. Like, I've just stood up and cheered in the middle of the theater
Really?
at this moment, and I felt like such an asshole because I was the only person who did it.
It was involuntary, right?
It like just a knee. It was like when I went and saw Jurassic World opening night. I'm in a crowded theater, a bunch of families and shit like that. And at the I'm enjoying it, and then like at the end of the movie, they have the holy shitosaurus is fighting the T-Rex
Right.
and the Velociraptor, and then it gets eaten by the big shark fish dinosaur thing, and then the T-Rex and the Velociraptor look at each other for like a brief moment, and I'm like, oh shit, rematch time! Like, fucking, I've been waiting for this. Like, let's see this stuff, and then they just give each other a mutual respect bro nod,
Yeah.
and then go their separate ways.
Wow.
And I literally, in the middle of this crowded theater, stood up and yelled, "Fuck you, movie!" And people laughed, and
Annie
people were
Wilkinson.
very mad at me and shot me looks. In Kong Skull Island, there's a moment at the end of the movie, spoiler alert, where the guys are trying to get off the island, and one of the soldiers turns to his team, and they're like, "We can't escape this monster that's coming at us." And he turns and goes, "Go on, live your life." Like that whole cliche, like, "Don't you worry about me, I'm gonna handle this." And he pulls out 2 grenades, and he flicks the
shit.
pins, and he walks over to the monster, like, "Come on, you ugly motherfucker, come on." And you're like, oh my god, this thing's gonna eat him, and then it's gonna blow up in his inside. Nope. The fucking monster looks at him like he's about to eat him, then turns around and swats him with his tail. The guy goes flying hundreds of feet, slams into a sheer cliff, and explodes.
Yeah.
His death was for nothing. And I literally stood up and just went, yes! Yes!
Life is meaningless.
Like, I love that movie so much because it's just so, like, we're just gonna have fun with people dying, guys. Like,
I like that.
Life is pure meaningless chaos, and you think you're gonna have an impact on things, but you don't.
You're gonna
But
end up
you-
getting
Here's
slapped.
all the cliches. Let's subvert all of them.
That is pretty great.
I love that movie. It's so good.
That's
Kong Skull Island. If you haven't seen it, it's the best movie of the year. It's the most fun you'll ever have.
so. Russell, how can we follow you and find you and see when when your next?
Yo, what are some
comedy
upcoming
shows.
shows?
Yeah.
We want to see you.
Okay, well, you can follow me through the words of Christ and to walk in his footsteps wherever they go, forever in fields of azure. No, but I'm actually doing a show at the Comedy Store in La Jolla, California. I don't know why I said it like an asshole. But yeah, Brandon is on the show.
Yeah.
As is Ariel Conversi.
Oh
and,
yay!
and Jordan Coburn. And
Oh my God.
Didn't
Awesome.
the three of us used to do a show somewhere in never mind.
Jesus Christ,
I'm
Brandon.
sorry.
Not again! But yeah, and you can follow me on the Twitter at Donald J. Trump. No, at Russelltron 5000. Two S's, two L's, Tron 5000. And then same thing for the Instagram, and
We'll link it.
that should do it for me. I really have nothing going on in my life. I spend most of my days just sitting at home with my dogs and watching True Detective season 1 on repeat.
When was the
What
show?
a miserable fuck.
When was the show at La Jolla, at the Comedy Store in La Jolla?
Oh yeah, that's January 4th. The Stand Up Savages. If you want to get tickets for that, go to the Comedy Store's website, thecomedystore.com. Click La Jolla, Return of Stand Up Savages, and use promo code SAVAGE, and you get 4 free tickets.
That's right. 4 free tickets.
4 free tickets!
I don't believe it.
That's such a deal.
Wow! Wowza McGee! Gee Willikers! Ham again! I need to kill myself. I've been alive too long. 267 years. It's been too long.
Oh. What's that strange feeling?
I'm slowly turning into dust. So yeah, that should do it for me and my plugs.
All right. What about good old Boris?
Yeah. And that concludes a very scary special edition of Let Me Put My Pants On. Join us next time for more spine-chilling and blood-curdling tales from a castle 500 feet on a cliffside in Transylvania. I gave Bela Lugosi overdosed amounts of heroin to eliminate the competition.
Hey, come on. It's 2017. It's transgender Vania.
All right, you guys.
I could talk to you all night, Russell and Boris. I'm sad we're out of time now. But thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you for having me here. Thank you, Matt, for recording this. And thank you, Dave. I'm scared. Dave, will I dream? Daisy.
Oh my God. It's beautiful. All right, you guys. See you next week. That's Let Me Put My Pants On.
Hal, open the pod bay doors.
A big thanks to the hilarious Russell Brock for coming on the podcast for episode 5 of Let Me Put My Pants On. Join us January 4th at 8 p.m. at the La Jolla Comedy Store for Return of the Stand-Up Savages and see Russell and the other comics on stage in all their glory. We are very excited to announce that in addition to iTunes and Facebook, you can now listen to the show on the Hillcrest social app for iOS and Android. We are thrilled to be featured on this incredible platform for connecting users to businesses, nightlife, and events in San Diego's LGBT community. If you enjoyed the show, please consider showing us some love on Facebook and iTunes. I promise the first person to leave a legitimate haiku as a review will have it read on the show. Remember, that's 5, then 7, then 5 syllables. I'm your producer, Matt McCoy. Your hosts are Brandon Potter, Jaleesa Johnson, and Katie Hinckley. Let Me Put My Pants On is recorded in chilly University Heights, San Diego. We'll be back next week with a very special holiday edition of the show, so don't miss it.
You know what the hardest sound effect to make is? The sound of a spray paint can.
Really? I found it on YouTube.
Whoa!
Oh, can you do that for the... Are we recording this?
I'm blown away.
That was fantastic.
You have so many hidden talents.
Well, I also did the voice work for Predator as well.
Yeah.